I never imagined that a simple Saturday morning could turn my life upside down, but that's exactly what happened. It all began with Mom's usual cheerfulness as she bounced into my room, humming a tune I barely recognized anymore. I was sprawled on my bed, scrolling through my phone, half awake, not expecting anything unusual. "Sweetie, wake up. We're going shopping," she said, her voice filled with that kind of energy that makes you forget you're tired. Normally, shopping trips were my personal nightmare. I hated crowds, hated the idea of trying on clothes, and most of all, hated feeling like I didn't belong anywhere. But there was something different in her tone today, an excitement, a kind of secret she wasn't telling me. I groaned, pulling the blanket over my head. "Mom, can't it wait? I have important stuff to do." But she was relentless, tugging the blanket down with that stubborn, motherly persistence that you can't argue with. "Nope, today we're going, and you're coming with me. Trust me, it'll be fun. Just one day of shopping, I promise, and I have a surprise for you." The word surprise hit me like a curveball. I knew Mom well enough to know that whenever she said that, nothing was ever normal. There was always a twist, a lesson, or something that left you questioning yourself afterward. Against my better judgment, I got up and followed her to the car, feeling the nervous curiosity building in my chest. The drive to the mall was oddly quiet, filled with her occasional hums and me staring out the window, trying to guess what this fun surprise could be. When we arrived, the parking lot was bustling with families, groups of friends, and the usual weekend chaos. Mom took my hand with an excitement I didn't know existed in her and led me straight inside. We passed stores I had no interest in, until we reached a shop I didn't recognize, brightly lit, with racks of clothing that shimmered and sparkled under soft lights. "Here we are," Mom said, eyes gleaming. "Today, we're going to try something new." I blinked. Something told me that new was going to be more than just a new t-shirt. Mom's gaze was unwavering, almost like she was sizing me up, reading something in me that I hadn't even admitted to myself. The walls of the store were lined with all kinds of outfits, flowing dresses, skirts, silky tops, and accessories that made my head spin. My stomach twisted with nerves. "Mom, what is this place?" I asked, my voice betraying the mix of curiosity and dread I felt. "This, sweetie, is a place to discover yourself. I want you to try something. Just one outfit. Let me guide you, okay?" I laughed nervously, thinking she was joking. "Mom, I'm not really into, all this." But she shook her head with that knowing smile, the one that made you feel like resisting her was pointless. "I know, honey. That's why this is so important. Sometimes, the things we fear the most are the things that teach us the most about ourselves." I hesitated, my heart racing. There was a part of me, a tiny, secretive part, that had always wondered what it would feel like to dress differently, to step into someone else's skin for just a little while. But admitting that to anyone, especially Mom, felt impossible. Now, standing here, staring at racks of clothing that seemed to whisper promises of change, I realized I had no choice but to trust her. Mom led me to a dressing area, draped with soft curtains, and handed me a single outfit. It was a delicate dress, soft pink with floral patterns, flowing and light, almost like it had been made for a completely different person than me. My hands trembled as I held it. "Just try it," Mom said gently. "You might be surprised at how you feel." I stepped into the changing room, my heart pounding. The fabric was strange against my skin, softer than I imagined, and the act of pulling it over my head made me feel exposed, vulnerable, and incredibly alive all at once. I looked at myself in the mirror, unsure of what I would see. The reflection staring back was familiar and alien at the same time. Me, but not me. The dress fit in a way I never thought I could carry, accentuating shapes I didn't know existed. I felt a strange thrill mixed with fear, like I was standing on the edge of something dangerous and exciting. Mom peeked through the curtain, her smile warm and encouraging. "Wow," she said softly. "You look beautiful." The word hit me harder than I expected. Beautiful. I had never thought of myself that way. My pulse quickened, my mind spinning with thoughts I couldn't quite name. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen. Really seen. She helped me adjust the outfit, added a few accessories, a delicate necklace, a subtle pair of earrings, and stepped back to admire her work. "See? You can do this. You can be whoever you want to be." I didn't respond at first. I was too busy staring at the mirror, at the transformation that wasn't just about clothes, it was something deeper, something I had buried inside myself. The thrill and fear coexisted, tangled together, making me feel like I was both losing control and finally gaining it at the same time. As we walked through the store, Mom guiding me gently, I noticed the stares, not mocking, but curious, admiring, surprised. Every glance felt like a spotlight, every step an exposure of a hidden self. And yet, for the first time, I didn't want to hide. We stopped at a small cafe inside the mall, and Mom ordered coffee for herself, a juice for me. I sipped slowly, feeling the fabric of the dress against my skin, feeling the weight of this new identity settle over me like a cloak I didn't know I needed. "Do you feel different?" Mom asked, tilting her head, eyes searching mine. I hesitated. I don't know. Maybe. It's weird. I feel exposed, but also lighter, I guess. She nodded knowingly. That's exactly it. Sometimes, stepping outside our comfort zone reveals parts of ourselves we didn't know existed. And that's a gift. The rest of the day passed in a blur of shopping, trying on outfits, and feeling my confidence grow with every choice. By the time we left the mall, I felt like a new person, someone I had never dared to be before, yet somehow had always been. That night, back at home, I stared at myself in the mirror again, this time without Mom's guiding hand. The reflection was undeniably me, yet undeniably different. I touched my face, my hair, the delicate fabric of the dress, and realized something that scared me more than anything else. I liked it. I liked who I was seeing. Mom came into the room quietly, smiling at my reflection. "You see it now, don't you? You're not just wearing a dress, you're discovering yourself." I swallowed hard, heart racing. But, what if this changes everything? What if people see me differently? She shook her head, walking closer. "Sweetie, the only thing that changes is you realizing who you truly are. The rest of the world, they'll adjust. Or they won't, but that's not your problem. Your happiness, your courage, that's what matters." And in that moment, I knew my life had changed forever. A single shopping trip, one outfit, one moment of courage from my mom had opened a door I didn't even know existed. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of self-discovery, quiet experimentation, and secret thrills. I tried different outfits at home, experimented with my hair, my voice, the way I moved, and each time, I felt more alive, more me, more complete. Mom never forced me, never judged me. She guided, encouraged, and celebrated every tiny victory with me. And slowly, I realized the truth. Transformation isn't just about clothes. It's about courage, acceptance, and daring to step into the person you've always been, even if the world isn't ready to see you yet. By the time my friends noticed subtle changes, the way I held myself, the confidence in my stride, the faint hints of makeup here and there, I was ready. Not for them, not for anyone else, but for me. I had faced the fear, embraced the vulnerability, and emerged on the other side, a person I didn't fully understand yet, but a person I wanted to be. And it all started with a simple trip to the mall, a single outfit, and a mom who saw beyond the surface. The following morning, I woke up with a strange mixture of excitement and anxiety. The memory of yesterday's shopping trip still lingered like an electric current, buzzing through my veins. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at my reflection in the mirror. The dress I had worn yesterday was folded neatly on a chair, a quiet reminder of the new chapter that had begun in my life. For the first time, I felt a curiosity about myself that wasn't tinged with fear or shame. I wanted to explore, to see what it truly meant to step into this new version of me. Mom poked her head into the room, holding 2 steaming mugs of coffee. "Good morning, sleepyhead. Ready for another adventure today?" she asked, her eyes twinkling. I couldn't help but smile. She had this uncanny ability to make everything feel like a secret mission, something only we understood. "Adventure?" I asked cautiously, taking the mug she offered. She nodded, leaning against the doorframe. "Yes. Today, we're going to find pieces that really define you. Accessories, maybe some shoes, a few outfits. Nothing crazy, just things that help you feel yourself. I hesitated, feeling a pang of nervousness. Mom, what if people see me? What if it's weird? She shook her head, walking over to sit beside me. Sweetie, the only opinion that matters right now is yours. You're discovering yourself, and that's beautiful. Everyone else, well, they'll catch up eventually. With her encouragement, I agreed, and we set out for the city's boutique district. The streets were busy, filled with chatter, the smell of coffee and baked goods, the rhythm of urban life. But none of that fazed me. For the first time, I walked with a strange confidence, a quiet power that I had never felt before. Every step reminded me of yesterday, the thrill, the vulnerability, the exhilaration of stepping outside my old self. We entered a small boutique, walls lined with delicate dresses, soft scarves, and shoes that sparkled as if they had been dusted with fairy dust. Mom guided me gently to a section with flowing skirts, elegant tops, and a range of colors I had never considered wearing. My heart raced, and my hands shook as I touched the fabrics, imagining how they might feel against my skin. Try something, Mom encouraged. Something that scares you just a little. You'll be amazed at how it feels. I picked out a simple yet elegant dress, a deep emerald green, soft to the touch, flowing just enough to make me feel like I was floating. I slipped into the changing room, the fabric brushing against my skin in a way that made my pulse quicken. I took a deep breath and looked at my reflection. The image staring back at me was mesmerizing. I hardly recognized myself. The dress didn't just change my appearance, it changed the way I carried myself. My shoulders relaxed, my posture straightened, and for the first time, I felt a harmony between how I looked and how I felt inside. It was surreal, like stepping into a role I had been auditioning for my whole life without realizing it. Mom peeked through the curtain, her eyes widening. "You look incredible," she whispered. "Absolutely stunning." I felt my cheeks flush, but it wasn't embarrassment. It was pride, a burgeoning confidence that I had never experienced. That day, we wandered from boutique to boutique, each outfit, each accessory, each pair of shoes revealing a layer of myself I had kept hidden for so long. I tried skirts, blouses, scarves, handbags, even small touches like nail polish and delicate earrings. With every choice, I felt more alive, more connected to the person I was slowly becoming. But the real challenge came when we stepped into a crowded shopping arcade. The bustling crowd, the curious glances, and the quiet whispers of strangers pressed against me like a test. My heart raced, and for a moment, I wanted to turn away, to hide behind Mom and retreat into the safety of my old self. Mom held my hand firmly. "Look at me," she said. "Breathe. You are more than their stares. You are courage, you are beauty, and most importantly, you are yourself. Step into this moment. Own it." I closed my eyes for a moment, took a deep breath, and opened them again. And then I walked. Each step felt like a declaration, each movement a tiny act of rebellion against the fear that had always held me back. People looked, yes, but not with judgment. Some with surprise, some with admiration. And for the first time, I realized that the world was not as scary as I had imagined. By the time we stopped for lunch, my confidence had grown in ways I didn't expect. I was laughing, chatting with Mom, feeling like a new person inhabiting a body that was finally aligned with who I felt I was inside. She smiled at me over our sandwiches. "See, you're thriving. I knew you could do this." The afternoon brought more lessons: how to pair colors, how to walk gracefully in new shoes, how to move through space without shrinking from attention. Each lesson was small but transformative, shaping not just the way I looked, but the way I felt in my own skin. I discovered nuances about my posture, gestures, and expressions that made me feel more authentic, more me. As we returned home, the sun dipping behind the skyline, I felt an emotional exhaustion mingled with exhilaration. I was overwhelmed, yet grateful. My reflection in the car window caught my eye. I barely recognized myself. The transformation wasn't just in clothes, it was in the way I carried my body, in the subtle lift of my chin, the quiet strength in my gaze. That night, I lay in bed, the day replaying in my mind like a vivid dream. I realized that I was not just experimenting with clothes, I was confronting my fears, my insecurities, and my hidden desires. The thrill of wearing something beautiful, the acceptance in my mother's eyes, and the quiet courage I discovered within myself all mingled to create an experience that was nothing short of life-changing. Over the next few weeks, the transformation continued in secret. I experimented at home, refining my style, exploring makeup, and discovering gestures and movements that felt natural, graceful, and freeing. I learned to appreciate details I had ignored: how hair frames a face, how fabric flows with motion, how a confident posture can shift the way the world sees you. Mom became my guide, mentor, and cheerleader. She never pressured me, never pushed beyond what I was ready for. But she celebrated every small victory, every moment of courage, every time I dared to step closer to the person I was becoming. One evening, as I tried on a particularly delicate dress, I caught my reflection and paused. The person in the mirror was me, and yet, someone entirely new. I realized that transformation was not a single moment, but a series of choices, each revealing layers of my identity I had kept hidden. I was discovering a self I had never dared to embrace, a self that felt authentic, powerful, and alive. And through it all, I understood something fundamental. Transformation isn't about hiding who you are, it's about revealing it. It's about courage, about stepping into the world as the person you have always been inside, even if that self has been buried under years of fear, expectation, and doubt. Mom sat beside me quietly, watching. "You're amazing," she said softly. "Do you see it now? This is you, truly. Not a disguise, not a game, just you." And for the first time, I truly saw myself. Not as someone who had been forced into a role, but as someone who had found freedom, courage, and beauty in a place I had never expected. A simple shopping trip, a mother's love, and a single moment of bravery had changed my life forever. The following weeks were a delicate dance between my old life and this new self I was discovering. At home, I thrived, experimenting with outfits, learning subtle ways to move, gestures that felt graceful, and discovering expressions that revealed confidence I had never known. Mom remained my quiet guide, always encouraging, never pushing, her presence a safe harbor as I navigated this unfamiliar territory. But venturing outside, even just a little, brought a new kind of challenge, one that tested every ounce of courage I had gathered so far. It started with small outings, quick trips to the corner store, walks in the park, where I dared to wear some of the simpler outfits I had tried at home. Each time, my pulse raced, my stomach twisted with anxiety, yet a strange thrill accompanied the fear. I noticed glances from strangers, some curious, some admiring, a few confused. Each reaction forced me to confront the truth. Stepping into this new self was not just about clothes, it was about claiming space in the world, daring to exist visibly as someone I had hidden for far too long. Mom remained my anchor during these first public experiments. "Breathe, sweetie," she would whisper, holding my hand or giving a reassuring squeeze. "You belong here. Don't shrink from their stares." One afternoon, she suggested we attend a small community event, a local fair, crowded with people from our neighborhood. I hesitated, heart hammering at the thought of being seen, judged, exposed. But her eyes, filled with unwavering belief in me, made it impossible to retreat. "It's time," she said softly. "Let's step into the world together." Walking through the fair, I felt a cocktail of emotions: fear, exhilaration, anticipation. Every step seemed to echo in my mind, every glance from strangers amplified. I noticed children staring with wide-eyed curiosity, adults whispering quietly, and couples stealing glances. I felt raw, vulnerable, yet incredibly alive. Then something unexpected happened. A small group of teenagers approached, pointing and whispering, clearly confused by my appearance. My chest tightened, panic rising, but before I could shrink away, Mom stepped beside me, smiling warmly. "Ignore them," she said, her voice calm yet firm. "You are not here to please anyone but yourself. Walk tall, smile, and show them your courage." I did as she said. I lifted my chin, squared my shoulders, and moved forward. With every step, I felt the fear dissolve slightly, replaced by a growing sense of pride. The whispers faded into the background, and I realized the truth. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is acting despite it. As the day went on, I began interacting with strangers more freely. A woman complimented my outfit, asking where I had gotten it, and I felt a blush of happiness that I had never known before. Children asked questions, fascinated by the way I carried myself, and I found myself answering with gentle humor, embracing this new persona without hesitation. Mom's pride radiated through her smiles and quiet nods, and I felt a bond with her stronger than ever. That evening, back at home, I sat on my bed, reflecting on the day. My heart was still racing, but the fear had transformed into something else, a quiet satisfaction, a recognition that I was capable of stepping beyond boundaries I had once thought impenetrable. But transformation is never without its inner conflicts. Late at night, I found myself staring at the ceiling, grappling with questions I hadn't dared to face before. Who was I, really? How much of this self was discovery, and how much was performance? Was I becoming someone entirely new, or was I finally uncovering the self I had buried under years of doubt and expectation? Mom found me lost in thought. She sat beside me silently, letting me gather my words. I'm scared, I admitted finally. Scared that if I show this side of me, people won't accept it. That I'll lose friends, or be judged. Even worse, that I might lose myself in all of this. She took my hand, her grip gentle but firm. Sweetie, every transformation comes with fear. The people who matter will accept you, the world will adjust, and most importantly, you will discover a self that has been waiting for you all along. The key is to be honest with yourself, and never apologize for it. Her words sank in, embedding themselves deep in my heart. Over the next few days, I started journaling, writing about my experiences, my emotions, my fears, and my discoveries. Each entry became a map of my transformation, a tangible record of growth, courage, and self-acceptance. I documented every outfit, every moment of bravery, every glance that tested my confidence, and every smile that reaffirmed my choice to step into this new life. The challenge intensified when I had to face my friends. They had always known me as someone quiet, reserved, and cautious. Revealing this side of myself felt terrifying. But I decided to invite one close friend over, someone I trusted implicitly. I dressed in one of my new outfits, styled my hair, and waited nervously for them to arrive. When the doorbell rang, my heart leapt into my throat. I opened the door to find my friend staring in surprise, eyes wide, mouth slightly open. I braced for judgment, for ridicule, for the laughter I feared. Instead, they smiled, a mix of curiosity and admiration in their expression. Wow, you look different. But good different. Amazing, actually. Relief and joy washed over me. For the first time, I realized that authenticity can be magnetic, that the courage to be yourself can inspire understanding and admiration rather than rejection. The conversation that followed was full of laughter, questions, and even gentle teasing, but none of it hurt. I felt seen, accepted, and more alive than ever. Mom watched quietly from the kitchen, her eyes glistening with pride. She had given me the tools, the encouragement, and the love to step into this life. But the rest, this courage, this discovery, it was mine alone. As weeks turned into months, my transformation deepened. I ventured further into public spaces, experimented with different styles, refined my gestures and expressions, and embraced the complexities of identity with a newfound confidence. Each challenge I faced, whispers, curious glances, moments of doubt, strengthened my resolve and expanded my sense of self. One evening, as I tried on a particularly striking outfit, I realized something profound. This transformation wasn't just about clothes or appearances, it was about courage, self-discovery, and acceptance. It was about daring to step into the light after years of hiding, about trusting myself and those who loved me, about embracing vulnerability as a source of strength. Mom entered the room, watching me in silence. "You're not just transforming on the outside," she said softly. "You're becoming the person you were meant to be, and it's beautiful." I smiled, a mixture of gratitude, pride, and quiet awe filling my chest. The journey was far from over, there would be challenges, moments of doubt, and obstacles to navigate, but I finally understood the truth. Transformation is not a single event, it's a continuous evolution, and the courage to embrace it is the greatest gift of all. That night, I went to bed feeling a sense of peace I had never known. I was no longer just experimenting, I was living. I was no longer hiding, I was embracing. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that my life had been forever changed not just by clothes, or by a single day of shopping, but by the courage to face myself, the love and guidance of my mother, and the willingness to step into the world as someone I had longed to be. The weeks that followed marked a turning point in my life. I had moved from experimenting in the privacy of my home to embracing this new self in ways I never imagined possible. Each outfit, each accessory, each gesture was no longer an act of curiosity, it was an assertion of identity, a declaration that I would no longer hide or shrink from the person I was discovering. The courage I had cultivated began to ripple into every corner of my life. Mom continued to be my anchor, but now, I noticed that her role had shifted. She was no longer just a guide, she was a silent witness to my growth, celebrating victories with pride and offering comfort during the moments when fear threatened to creep back in. One evening, as I tried on a flowing lavender dress, I caught her gaze lingering a moment too long. "You've grown," she whispered, a tremor in her voice. "More than I could have ever imagined." Her words resonated deeply. I realized that this transformation was never about the dresses, the shoes, or even the makeup. It was about the courage to face myself, the trust to let someone see my true self, and the relentless pursuit of authenticity. Every step I took outside, every smile I dared to offer, every glance I held instead of avoiding, it was all part of a journey that was shaping me into someone I had always wanted to be but had never allowed myself to become. The real challenge came when I had to confront my life outside the safe cocoon of home and trusted friends. School, work, and social gatherings became arenas where I tested the strength of my new identity. Some people were curious, some indifferent, some judgmental, but each interaction strengthened my resolve. I learned to navigate these moments with grace, using humor, confidence, and self-awareness to diffuse tension and embrace authenticity. One afternoon, I attended a family gathering wearing an elegant pastel dress, a subtle necklace, and my hair styled in gentle waves. The room fell silent as I entered, and for a moment, I feared that my transformation had gone too far, that I had crossed a line that couldn't be undone. But then, my cousins smiled, my aunts complimented my outfit, and my parents exchanged glances that spoke volumes. Mom squeezed my hand under the table, a quiet reassurance that I was exactly where I belonged. The initial tension dissolved, replaced by conversations, laughter, and a sense of acceptance I hadn't dared hope for. It was in these moments, navigating curiosity, judgment, and admiration, that I truly understood the power of authenticity. I realized that transformation was not merely external, it was a profound act of self-liberation. By embracing my identity, I had opened the door to connections that were deeper, more genuine, and more fulfilling than I had ever experienced. The journey was not without setbacks. There were days when doubts resurfaced, when old insecurities whispered that I was not enough, that I didn't belong. But each time, I reminded myself of the lessons Mom had taught me. Courage is acting in spite of fear, authenticity is choosing yourself over societal expectation, and transformation is a continuous evolution, not a destination. One evening, I found myself standing in front of the mirror, reflecting on how far I had come. The person staring back at me was undeniably me, yet unrecognizable from the timid, uncertain version I had been just weeks ago. I traced my fingers along the delicate fabrics of my outfit, along the subtle curves that had become a part of my identity, and realized with awe that this was not a disguise or an act, it was liberation. Mom entered quietly, her eyes glistening. "You're beautiful," she said softly, not just referring to the outfit, but to the transformation she had witnessed, the courage she had nurtured, the person I had become. I felt a surge of gratitude, not just for her guidance, but for the journey itself. The shopping trips, the experiments, the risks I had taken, they had all led me here. I had discovered strength in vulnerability, freedom in self-expression, and an unshakable confidence in the truth of who I was. The final test came when I decided to step into the public eye more boldly. I attended a community art event, a gathering filled with strangers, creatives, and curious onlookers. I wore an outfit that reflected the person I had become: bold, elegant, expressive, and for the first time, I did not feel fear. I walked through the crowd, engaging in conversations, laughing, and sharing my experiences openly. Every glance, every whisper, every smile I received was met with confidence, and I realized that the world did not define me, I defined myself. By the end of the evening, I had not only embraced my transformation fully but had inspired curiosity, admiration, and even a sense of wonder in those around me. Strangers approached, asking questions about my style, my journey, my courage. I answered honestly, with humor, grace, and a quiet pride, recognizing that my story could be a beacon for others struggling with their own identity and self-expression. Returning home that night, I felt an overwhelming sense of completeness. The journey had begun with a single shopping trip, a dress, and a mother who saw beyond appearances. It had led me through fear, self-doubt, experimentation, and courage, to a place where I could finally stand as my authentic self. I sat beside Mom, holding her hand. "Thank you," I whispered. "For everything. For believing in me, for guiding me, for helping me find myself." She smiled, tears glistening. "No, sweetie. Thank you for trusting yourself, for daring to be brave, for showing the world who you truly are. That's the real gift." And in that moment, I understood the full magnitude of what had happened. Transformation had not just changed the way I looked, it had reshaped my identity, my confidence, my courage, and my capacity to embrace life fully. I was no longer afraid, no longer hiding, no longer unsure. I had discovered a self that was beautiful, authentic, and resilient, a self that could step into the world boldly, proudly, and unapologetically. From that day forward, every outfit I chose, every step I took, every reflection I encountered was a celebration of courage and authenticity. I had been changed not by clothes or makeup, but by the willingness to explore, the courage to be seen, and the love and guidance of someone who believed in me. Mom and I often laughed about how it all started with a simple shopping trip. But I knew the truth, it wasn't just shopping. It was a journey into the heart of who I was, a discovery that changed the trajectory of my life forever. That trip, that dress, that moment of courage, it had unlocked a world I had never imagined, a world where I could finally be fully, unapologetically, and beautifully myself. Looking back, I realize now that life doesn't hand us transformation on a silver platter. It gives us moments, small, seemingly ordinary moments, that challenge us, push us, and invite us to discover the strength within. And sometimes, all it takes is someone who believes in you, a single step, and the courage to open the door. I opened that door, stepped through, and found not just a new wardrobe or a new appearance, but a new life, a new self, and a freedom I had never known. And for that, I will be forever grateful to the woman who saw me, believed in me, and changed my life forever.